So over to the map, Jillian, we go from news from over the weekend. Come on over here and I'll tell you what's happening. Remember, Iran has claimed territorial claim, international waters of everything you see in pink. Whether or not and how long that upholds itself, we'll find out. The military action took place on this side of the water on Iran's territory, and they were going after this location here called Gork, another one here in Keshem Island. Talked a lot about Keshem Island as the Iranians want these vessels to go around their islands and pay a toll, which would take you really close to the Iranian border in order to navigate the strait. Here's what happened over the weekend. This drone, American-operated drone, an MQ-1, high sophistication, apparently was operating in international territory, was shot down in the sky by the Iranians, and that led to a U.S. response. We'll swing on over here and let you know what's happening. Remember, there was a ceasefire that went into place back on the 7th, 8th of April. Since that time, things were pretty relatively quiet, I would argue, until about a month ago, all right? May 7th, that's when the U.S. strikes these Iranian missile and drone strikes on behalf of the Navy destroyers. Then last week, in fact, about a week ago today, CENTCOM was seeing these mine-laying ships in the Strait of Hormuz, and the U.S. military went after a number of sites. Then on Wednesday, we hit other radar and military facilities. Then this was the activity from Saturday and Sunday, all right? CENTCOM hit these Iranian drone sites after that drone was shot down. All that activity I just showed you over on the map took place. So that's where we are right now. But for the moment, despite the tit for tat, the ceasefire is holding. General Jack Keane's here. And General, great to get you on today, and hello to you. There are reports out of Tehran in the last hour saying that if the Israelis do not stop hitting Hezbollah targets in Lebanon, there's no more talking, and they will open up new fronts in this war if you do not listen. How do you read that on its face right now, General?
Well, on the face of it, despite the board briefing, which is excellent, the ceasefire is not holding, Bill. Let's face it. I mean, Iran is doing everything they can to disrupt the Straits of Hormuz even further. Why? Because we've been passing shipping through there, to be sure, and that's not a violation of any ceasefire. Iran has taken very aggressive actions, and we are defending ourselves against it quite handily, as you point out there. And just so our audience gets a grip on what is actually happening here, we had a ceasefire on April the 8th overall, and then a more specific ceasefire on April the 17th in Lebanon. And since April the 17th to today, the Iranians have fired over 2,400 missiles and drones into northern Israel. That is more than what Israel had to defend against during the 5 days when we are at war. That is the significance of it. And is that a ceasefire? Are they holding to that? Obviously, they're not. I mean, it's absolutely laughable that they're saying that what Israel is doing to defend itself is in violation of the ceasefire. We got to call it out for what is really happening here. And listen, give the president a huge amount of credit here. He's exercising some real strategic patience, trying to get a deal here. And he knows full well at some point he could run out of patience. One, because of their seriousness is lacking in getting down to the real terms of the deal. And we're going to find out over time. There's no reason to even speculate about what those terms are because we don't know. But the second thing is, he's right when he talks about holding the cards here. We have plenty of justification to go back to a war footing right now based on all these violations of the ceasefire that I just described. He's not doing it. But they also know that he could do it. And if this behavior continues, it certainly undermines anything the Iranians are saying, Bill, about the seriousness of their wanting to make a deal. And they're using, I think, this pressure to think that that's going to force us into making a deal sooner and making it more in terms of what they want to achieve themselves.
Okay, so I want to take it back.
Here for sure.
Last Friday afternoon, we're all waiting for news out of the Situation Room. It came later in the evening on Friday, around 6 o'clock. Reports undoubtedly the president sent Iran an answer. And this is what the New York Times is reporting about that response. They write the following: Trump's changes, a new, tougher proposal, were potentially intended to speed up the process by putting pressure on Iran to accept the framework look already sent to Iran's supreme leader. Can you shed light on what that response might have been, sir?
I think we just can speculate about it. We don't know the specifics of it. But one of the barriers has always been the Straits of Hormuz, and they want to have some level of control over that in organizing it. Maybe remove the fees, but if they're still telling ships when they can go and what time to go, et cetera, and where to go, that's obviously control. We want none of that. We don't even want the implication there. What would be preferred would be if Iran made a statement that it is territorial, it is international waters, not territorial waters that they claim it to be, and it's freedom of navigation. Mm-hmm. I doubt seriously they would agree to a statement like that, but at least remove any threat that they're going to stay in some kind of organizational control over. The other stuff, I'm assuming, has something to do with nuclear and whether they're fully committed in the memorandum of understanding that we're trying to get them to sign, that there is a commitment there to ridding themselves of the nuclear capabilities that they have.
Okay, sir, if
just
I
speculation
could,
on our part.
I just want to characterize, you have a lot of good sources on this war. Are you more optimistic today or less optimistic than you were, say, at the end of last week?
Well, I've always cautioned whether we can really make a deal with these guys or not, because I think they're playing for time here, trying to drag this out. If 60 days gets us to the end of July, they want to drag it out likely even further. In their mind, they think the closer they get to the midterm elections, the less likelihood that the president would ever react to a negative deal with returning to military operations. I think that has a lot to do with their strategy. My own judgment about that is I believe they're miscalculating once again. Remember, we did the 60-day thing with them once before. Sure. This was prior to 12 June hostilities going on for our audience to understand. And he gave them 60 days. And what did they do? They did not fulfill the deal. On the 61st day, he gave the green light to Israel to attack Iran. So I believe we're on the path for them to miscalculate once again. And we could see ourselves returning to military operations because of that miscalculation.
Okay, right on. General, thank you so much. It's good to touch base with you as we begin a new week. Thank you, sir. We'll talk in a few days. Jack Keane there with the status of the war today in D.C. Thanks. Jillian. Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.